All right, what's going on, y'all? Hey, I'm glad to be back on here. I've been married now for about 3 months and just praising God for the way that He's been healing me sexually as I've been growing in manhood and being the husband He's called me to be. And I have a few ideas for videos. One of them I want to touch on here today is the way that men are being emasculated widespread in the media and just the current trends and societal values and just what's being imposed upon our young people. We've heard a lot about the transgender agenda being pushed through the media in the last few weeks and months, and I anticipate that growing and becoming more and more of an issue over the next decade. But I can look back on my past and see the different seeds that were sown into my life, things that I was exposed to, and I really think it's dangerous the way that young minds who are lacking discernment are being exposed to these lies. And something that I've noticed in my experience, maybe you all could share with me, is that the transgender desires really had an element of envy I've touched on, and I would say here shame, that there's a shame in being a man. And as I've just rested more securely in manhood, I've had to make peace with my manhood. I've talked a lot about gratitude and how important that is. And to rest in a place of gratitude and contentment, there can be no shame. And I did come across one website and a research that I did the last few weeks for a class I'm in. And one of the only websites I came across that was non-Christian, that didn't have a theological basis for cautioning people about transitioning and educating people that that's not a wise and healthy thing to do. They had a part on that page that talked about false gender role stereotypes and the way that many transgendered individuals have false views of what it means to be a man or a woman. Men who decide to transition to women identify with a feminist mindset that demonizes men and really elevates women. It has grandiose views of womanhood. They might believe that men are overly aggressive, violent, doministic. Women are more sensitive, loving, and have a privileged position in relationships. And these lies really fuel a lot of the transgender desires in individuals. And they were just encouraging men who are struggling with this issue to take a look at ways that I think they had an exercise on there, and I'm going to post a link to it. Not that I endorse everything that they say, but it's worth checking out. They had an exercise. If you could write down all the character traits that are desirable and those that are undesirable, and then on another column state, do you associate that with masculinity or femininity, and see what comes out. And they suggested that those that are struggling with the transgender desires are going to have a warped view of womanhood, and they're going to have an overly positive view of women and negative view of men, and vice versa for the women that might identify with a male chauvinist attitude and see women as superficial or irrelevant or weak, and see men as more important, significant, or powerful. And if we have a right view of what it is to be a man, what it is to be a woman, because these fantasies are driven by things that are just not true. And as I make more peace with who I am as a man, I find great pleasure in being a man. And I encourage you to take a look at that and just see how realistic your views are of manhood or womanhood. Is that really true? The transgender deception is many times driven by these false gender role stereotypes, and men who have transitioned into a female role find out that being a woman is not what they thought it would be. And many times, especially long term, there's great regret. There's not this, there's a false notion that those that transition find peace and mental health. There's a lack of good research and long-term longitudinal studies that really show what happens, years and decades after somebody has the sexual reassignment surgery. But those that are out there, those that I've looked at, show that there's great mental health problems, that what psychologists and psychiatrists and the medical community are advocating in the hormonal therapy and the surgeries are not solving these people's problems. They're really just endorsing confusion. And it would be better if we would serve these people by showing them where they're not seeing reality clearly. It's madness what's going on. And I'm just one voice out there that is sharing my experience. I'm just one out of many who are struggling with this. And I believe that this issue is going to become more widespread. It's dangerous. And we as Christians who understand the truth can be intimidated by those out there that say, you don't know how I feel, or you don't know what it's like. And we know what the truth is. And my presentation I did for my class, I was merely trying to educate them that you don't have to know what these people feel like. I myself do. And so I can speak with authority on this subject. But we don't need to cave into these radicals who are seeking to change the fabric of society and seeking to bully us into believing and seeing the world the way they do. And I'm reminded of something that happened many years ago. Back in the times of the kings, you look in the Old Testament, when Jezebel, the queen that emasculated all the men around her, she had scores of eunuchs that served her. And she sought to destroy masculinity in Israel, and she was very successful and destroyed many of God's prophets. But her undoing was by those eunuchs that had served her. She was cast over a wall and killed, according to a prophecy that was fulfilled in 2 Kings 9:33. And so I see myself as one of those eunuchs, so to speak, where the enemy tried to emasculate me and help me to be. He wanted me to be a part of his agenda in these last days. But by God's grace, I am one of those men who has been redeemed and desires to share truth with others out there who are in bondage. And those of you that do have ears to hear, I encourage you to seek God, to search the scriptures, to really dig deep and looking outside of just all these resources and everything out there that is available that's just going to encourage you in the delusion. And if you feel led to message me, I'm willing to talk with you over email, over Skype. And I'll be in touch and hope to put out some videos in the coming weeks. May the Lord bless you all.